Welcome to New Gameplay Today. I'm Matt Miller. I am joined by my colleague, Suriel Vasquez.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
I'm pretty excited because we're taking a look at a game that I am very stoked about. Anthem.
Yeah.
From Bioware and Electronic Arts. Is this the game? Is this the one that's going to be the Destiny Slayer, the Division killer? That's what everybody asks about this game, and I don't know, is it unfair?
I don't think I think it's fair in the sense that it is a game that is trying to do a lot of the things that Destiny does.
Okay.
Which is basically this sort of group-based multiplayer shooter with a lot of sort of long-tail elements of grinding for gear, sort of, teaming up and tackling these missions over and over again, almost like Diablo-esque now that I kind of think about it. But set in like a sci-fi world with a lot of shooting going on. It's definitely in that mold.
Sure. But I mean, everything I've seen of it, even though certainly it draws comparisons to stuff like Destiny, I think the actual tone of gameplay is pretty different, right? Like, there's a lot of things about the third-person perspective that are more reminiscent of a little bit more active and action-y Bioware game than of something like Destiny.
Similar to like Warframe or Monster Hunter, where I think to me the biggest difference that stood out is that there is a lot more awareness of sort of different of your environment. So I think the big thing that I came away with is that I really like the movement, in that you have so basically you can sprint, you can dash, which are these little short hops, and you can chain those dashes together, and then you can also hover around in the sky, and that has sort of like a limited function. Like, you can't just do that forever, depending on your class.
Sure.
And then there's the just straight up flight, which obviously you've seen by now, where you can just rocket around, to separate arenas, and sort of the missions are structured around that, where you can approach a combat encounter from like above. Sometimes you'll just sort of be in a cave and you'll rocket upwards, and you'll be in the middle of an encounter. So I think they work a lot. The arenas work a lot in that they're vertical, and there's a lot of latitude to them, and that's I think that's going to set Anthem apart, is sort of that combat, the way you can just move around these arenas.
So we should clarify a little bit. I mean, this isn't just your impressions from the demo that's slowly rolling out. You actually went and checked out a little bit beefier section of the game, right?
Right.
You had a chance to go to an event and play a little bit. What was given that you got to see a little bit more of the game, was there, any sort of broader takeaways about just the feeling of quality? And, are you still stoked about this game? Are you looking forward to it now that you've played a significant chunk of it?
I'm excited to play it because it does do the thing that I like about, Destiny, things like that, of just providing this very comfortable co-op experience with your friends, and being able to sort of coordinate with them to some degree. And I think the shooting itself is fun, and I think the abilities that you can sort of customize your characters with, I think there's a lot more of them than there is in something like Destiny. It's probably closer to maybe Warframe, in sort of how you can run different builds based on not like overarching sort of classes or like subclasses, but more of, I equip this specific setup of skills, and that's my character, sort of. And so that feels a lot more malleable than I think in something like Destiny or other games like this, like the Division. But so we played through a few of the early story missions. We played through basically what's in the demo, and then we had some linking stuff. But right for now, this early game stuff, I think, sort of was the first indication of like, hey, here's how this game is going to flow over the course of several hours. So they told us it's about 1/6 is sort of everything we played, 1/6 of maybe the campaign. And so there's this flow of like completing missions like this, and then going back to Fort Tarsis, which is sort of their hub area, talking to people, sort of getting new missions, picking up contracts, looking at sort of some of the daily and the weekly challenges that you can accomplish, and sort of how you build up your character, things like that. That's sort of the stuff that I think sort of came through in this demo.
Were you able to get a decent sense of how that storytelling flow works? I think from the earliest time that I heard about how they're building it, that sounded pretty weird to me. The idea that you're going to go out into this world that's pretty agnostic to your current place in the story because you're playing with other people who might be in different places, but then you go back to Fort Tarsis and then you have your story, right?
So
did you get a sense of that?
Yeah.
Does it work?
So there's like a couple different modes of play. So there's the campaign, which is going to be sort of like if you have played Destiny's campaign. It's very similar to that, where most of the storytelling happens through conversations that you're having, sort of like, transmission conversations, basically, like phoners. And that is sort of, those will change events. Those will have events that advance the story, but a lot of sort of the deeper Bioware-esque storytelling happens sort of around the edges, where you go back to your base, and they're basically like debriefings, and so they'll talk about what you did, and they'll say like things like, that was kind of weird, huh? Like the stories there are impacted by what you do in the main campaign.
Okay.
But in the missions themselves, you don't see like a lot of set pieces or anything like narrative moments happening.
Right. I mean, I'm going to be honest, you using the word debrief does not exactly line up with what I think of as deep storytelling.
Yeah.
Is it more than that, or is it really just like, oh, well, you did that mission, now here's the next mission?
There were some sort of longer scenes.
Okay.
But for the most part, it definitely did feel like, like if you play StarCraft or something, and you've got sort of like the cutscene that happens at the end of the mission, and then you move on to the next mission.
Okay.
That was sort of more of the feel that I got, and I think that might be a concern to like hardcore Bioware players.
Right.
But I like Mass Effect a lot. I like Bioware, but I'm not like a huge devotee of them.
Sure.
So them sort of moving more into this world, I think, is fine. But I think that is maybe a concern going forward. And it was also kind of an issue because our exposure to the story was disjointed.
Yeah.
In that we sort of hopped around a lot.
You were seeing different spots in the campaign.
Yeah, and then also a lot of the focus was like figuring out who we were going to play with at that event, because it was very weird setup where you had to convince the people around you to group up with you. So a lot of it was just logistics.
Yeah.
So it was hard to take in the story as a whole. But even the presentation feels like, if you think like another maybe comparison that might work is sort of a lot of the cutscenes in Far Cry games where you're standing next to a person and they're sort of animating and relaying information to you. That is sort of the tier that I think we're talking about here.
Okay.
We did see like one or two cutscenes that were sort of beyond that, but that is sort of where that storytelling threshold is from what we saw.
Sure. And I mean, like the games that this is maybe being inspired by or is competing with, this is going to be a growing game, right? Like what is out at launch is not going to be the totality of what Anthem is likely to be.
Right.
Several months later, or much less a year later, but the first impressions are important, right? I think that there's going to be some differing expectations. You mentioned hardcore Bioware people. It's certainly not going to be a traditional Bioware RPG, right? But neither is it necessarily going to be just a straight up no stories sci-fi shooter. It seems like from what you're talking about that there's at least some depth to a sense of characters and story and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What about I will say that from the stuff that you're showing here, this does look like a just cool artistically. The actual space that you're moving through is cool to look at. Did you get a good sense of the world that they're building? Were you attracted to that world and that universe? Did you get a good sense of the wider fiction setup beyond the actual individual story beats?
So a couple of the cutscenes we mentioned, like they do suss out like sort of what happens early on that sort of acts as the catalyst for your personal story, and they have a later cutscene that is sort of like a cutscene that delves into the background, sort of like a flashback that tells you some of the history about the world. And I do think like the locales you're visiting here are like gorgeous, and I like them a lot. And as combat arenas too, I think they work really well. And I think the different classes do a really good job of exploiting those environments and making it feel like you're part of this larger battle versus like moving from hallway to hallway that happens to contain enemies, or sometimes there's like a hall or something. I think those combat encounters and how they're set up and how the different classes kind of flesh that out, I think is all really cool.
Well, very cool. I mean, I'm stoked. I have some concerns about Anthem, but I have to say that I'm eager to see what Bioware has been working so hard on, and it seems like what you played, you had some enthusiasm here.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited. I want to keep playing more of this.
absolutely, and we're gonna have plenty of opportunities here in the coming weeks. They've got some demos coming out, and beyond that, the actual game is out in just a few weeks. So everybody else is gonna be able to make up their own mind as well. In the meantime, thanks for watching new gameplay today, and we will see you later. Bye.